Okay. I'm not really sure how I'm sharing the screen, so I think I'm probably in a corner, but I might not be. So we'll find out when I look at the final product. In the meantime, if you celebrate Christmas, then Merry Christmas Eve Eve. If you don't, then happy random December 23rd. And I will say, so I promised a Malbec tasting. We're doing a Malbec tasting. I tried to make it slightly holiday-y-ish, holiday-y, holiday-y-esque, whatever you want to say. And I searched high and low for a kosher Malbec because I have seen them. I know they exist, and I could not find any. So we're just doing three inexpensive Malbecs from Argentina. I'm already nervous because I was just discussing with my partner, like, have I become a wine snob who can't drink inexpensive wines anymore? But we're not going to worry about that tonight. We'll talk about that maybe at the end of the episode or at the end of the next episode or during dry January, whatever it is. Today we are talking about Malbec with some fun facts. So moving on. All right. So when I looked up this presentation, it definitely was actually like about Argentina, which is why I have a few like Argentinian Spanish words in here. Just roll with me. I was trying to be cool. So we'll talk about the geography of Argentina. Then we, of course, will go to Google Earth. Then we'll talk about the Malbec grape, what we are expecting when we drink the grape. We'll do a tasting. And as always, I will say, like this is the start of the tasting. And then when I do the video description, I will put in little time, like a table of contents sort of thing. Then we'll talk about I was going to talk about actual Argentinian food, but it ended up just being what you would pair with this. So there we go. That's the chaos for today. If you like Malbec, some other wines you should try. And then, of course, thanks. I have, a little thank you slide. Okay, so before we go to Google Earth, I wanted to throw some numbers at you. So 1,500 kilometers is how much of there are 1,500 kilometers of vineyard in Argentina. So they lie close to the Andes up in Salta, and then we go all the way down to Patagonia and Rio Negro in the south. 600 meters is the majority of the vineyards sit at about 600 meters above sea level. For those of you who are using imperial system, that's about 1,970 feet. So most of the vineyards are close to 2,000 feet above sea level. Then we get into Mendoza, and specifically one of these I know is labeled Uco Valley. The rest just say Mendoza. And we're looking at 900 to 1,500 meters above sea level, which puts us at 2,950 to 4,925 feet. So again, for my imperial people, a mile is 5,280. So we are pushing towards that mile height. They actually get even taller. I should have taken some notes, but I think we get close to maybe 2 miles in some areas. We get a lot of elevation here. These are honestly some of the lower numbers. And then approximately 85% of the plantings in Mendoza are the Malbec grape, and that's what we are drinking. Amos is here, so if the screen suddenly, yep, and there's crashing. If the screen suddenly goes blank, it's because he turned off my computer. Okay, so let's talk about the Malbec grape. So this is actually a native French grape. It's native to Southwest France. And in France, if you have Malbec, it will be made in what used to be called the Old World style. And now I don't really know if we have a replacement for what that's called. But you're going to get a lot more of those secondary and tertiary flavors rather than the fruit-forward primary flavors, primary flavors that you're going to get in the New World Argentinian style. Now, technically, Malbec grapes are thin-skinned, but by growing them at those higher elevations, you kind of force the grape. I was going to say it's weathering the conditions, and that would have been such a bad accidental pun, but it is withstanding these much harsher conditions, and so it literally grows a thick skin. And then I don't know what was happening when I rendered this image. I asked for a bold, sassy red grape bunch, and this was too creepy, honestly, to not share with all of you. If I had to see it, you have to see it. Your typical profile, it's going to be a dry wine, medium minus to medium acidity. So as we've discussed, acidity is affected a lot by the weather. So if we have those cooler climates in the beginning, and then we've got those long summers, we can really up the acidity in these wines. medium to medium plus tannin. So again, those tannins will come from the grape skin. So if you can thicken up the grape skins, you'll get more tannin. I put medium alcohol, but pushing it. And that's because there is no such thing as like medium plus alcohol. But these can really start to push towards that 14.5, 15%. These can get a little hot. And with all of that in consideration, we can get that medium plus to full body. Going back to the tannins just for a second, there is also a propensity with the Malbec grape to do cold soaking. I know we've talked about that in the red wine making video. So if you want to go back and look at that, cold soaking is just where you let the grape skins sit with the juice and it's cold. So the fermentation process doesn't begin, but it gives extra time to draw out a lot of color, for which this wine is somewhat renowned, and a lot of the flavors without too terribly much of the tannins, and then the tannins come after, but there is some effect. Okay, we're gonna try to go to Google Earth now, so bear with me. Okay, I'm back after editing out the entire attempt to use Google Earth. I don't know what's happening with Google Earth right now, but it is infuriatingly slow and won't actually pull up Mendoza or Uco Valley for some reason. It just sits there and spins. I'll figure it out for next time. I'm not gonna let it get us off track. So we've just gone to Google Maps instead, and we will zoom out, and I mean, you'll get the idea. So here we are. We're sitting, just on, all right, Mendoza. All right, here's the Andes mountain range. I realize I still don't remember if you can see my mouse or not, but like Aconcagua is a pretty famous mountain. I want to say 22,000 feet of elevation. And just to the east of that, we've got Mendoza. So even the valleys, we're probably looking at like a pretty high elevation. And then obviously I want to give you the latitude of Mendoza, which Google Earth could have given me, but didn't. Yeah, so we're looking at 3253 south. So we know where these grapes are grown, sort of, kind of. All right, our expected flavor profiles. I'm so thrown, but I refuse to start over. Primary, we're gonna get raspberries, red plums, black cherries, blackberries, brambles, prunes, berry leaf. I would say specifically like probably a raspberry leaf or a blackberry leaf, and some peppery notes. So not like bell peppers or chili peppers, but think about like black pepper, green pepper, even red pepper flakes. We can look for all of those in our wines. Secondary, we're going to be looking at chocolate, vanilla, maybe some coffee. So then you could put it together and make some mocha. We can look for some of those things. And then tertiary, if it's been aged, we might see some tobacco leaf, a little bit of like candied or sugared plums, and some cedar. And I think, yeah, okay, so we'll go back to this as we do our tasting. So the tasting begins here. Again, I would really recommend you stick with these tastings if you're going to be doing any exams. But if you skip forward because you just can't handle it, or you're having an ADHD moment, or you just don't want to listen to it, go ahead and check the video description to see when we go to the If You Like Malbec Try list of wines. Now here comes the super fun part. I have 3 bottles. They're all relatively expensive or inexpensive. I think $8 up to $15. Like none of these are, nice wines. But I will say, it might be in this book. The author even says, like, yes, this is the Wine Simple from Aldo Somm that I talk about all the time. And it says, this is a great steak wine, not to mention always affordable. I've had some fantastic Malbecs, and I don't think any of them topped like $35. So now I'm going to attempt to use my phone to do a blind tasting with all of you. So I put these bottles in bags, then realized that I recognized the bags. So I had my partner swap them around. So now I really and truly do not know which wine is in which bag. I promise. I have no clue, and you'll just kind of have to take my word for it. So I'll pour these. This is awkward to do because I also don't want to see the label around the top, because then I'll know which one it is. All right, so let's do our color analysis. And this is where I'm hoping I can make this work. Aha! Yes, all right, so I should be able to dual screen this when I do it with all of you. Oh man. Can I read through this? Need some paper. I'm getting paper. Yeah, I would give this probably a light ruby. And then I want to make sure we're doing this correctly. So I'm going to do light ruby. Um, I'd give it a medium to medium plus intensity on the nose. And now here's where we're going to try to think of these things. So do I get raspberry? Yes. Red plum. I actually don't get a lot of black cherry. I could get blackberry and bramble. I don't so much get prune, but I get a little bit of a fig note, maybe. Definitely berry leaf. And I would argue red anus. Flaked red pepper and probably green peppercorn. Did you want some wine, baby? I don't get so much of the black pepper. So now let's look for our secondary notes. Amos, you're killing me, Smalls. I don't know if I get any secondary notes. I guess I could get vanilla. Maybe a little bit of baking spice. Yeah. And then I could get some cedar. So that's what I'm getting on the nose. Mm. Okay, I like to go over the palate descriptors before I do the palate flavors. It's dry. I'm gonna have to give it a medium plus acid because as you can see, I keep swallowing. I would actually say they're fine chalky tannins. I don't know that there are that many of them. I give it a medium plus tannin, actually. I'm being tricked a little bit by how much saliva is happening. What a lovely statement. I'm going to say it is a little hot. The alcohol is rough for me. I'm going to say 14.5. Sure. Okay. That's wine one. You can see this crinkled up bag. That was wine, light crinkled bag. This is wine, slightly more worn bag, and wine, yeah, I would say slightly more crumpled bag. I'm not quite sure. Give this a pour. Da-da. See, when I'm pouring it, it almost looks like there's a brownie to it, but I'm not getting it when I look at it. Okay, so we'll record. There we go. This is really bad just because of the angle of the camera. No, I'm gonna also give this one a light ruby. Yeah, sure. None of these should be light. I think it's because I'm holding it at such a drastic angle. Let's go with medium ruby. Okay. This one's a little less intense. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a medium minus intensity on the nose. And now let's look for our flavors. I'm gonna guess this is a less expensive wine because I do not immediately get any of the flavors. I get sort of a metallic scent, which I get from inexpensive wines. I'm actually really struggling. I'm gonna put this in a different glass. This is not the ideal glass for this, but sometimes if it smells metallic on the nose to me for reasons I can't quite discern, I just need to put it in a larger bowl. Okay, that's a little better. I can almost like a dusty red plum. I'm really selling this wine. I can see the blackberry. Give us some more swirling. I do get prune on this one. And the leaves, the berry leaves. I don't get any of the peppery notes. I am not getting a lot from this. We're going to try some retronasal breathing. Okay, now I just get a candied raspberry. I'm struggling to get any flavors out of this. So were I doing an assessment, I would call it a simple wine. And then I would just have to really work to find any flavors. I'd also give it a medium minus acidity, medium and slightly grittier tannins. Maybe a 13.5. Okay, well, wine number 2 is a sprinkled up one that I definitely have not sold you on. So we'll come back to that. All right, our final one. Hopefully this one goes a little bit better than the last one. All right, final wine. I probably need to do heavier pours. No, I probably do need a little more wine picks. Thanks. Okay, try this. One last wine. Okay, they have all been very similar in their appearance. I would give this one also a medium ruby. Oh, there's a little bit more staining though, which tells me potentially cold soaking, but also maybe just more tannic. Now, pronunciation on the nose. Weirdly, I think I'm already getting some sage, which makes no sense to me, but I'll give this one a medium. And now we'll try for some sense. Give this a good swirl. I know it's weird when I do this cutout. I don't think you can see it as well. It smells very sharp, which is not an official tasting note. I would get underripe raspberry. I don't know that I get any red plum. I could again get like underripe, like when the black cherries are a little bit crunchy. I could maybe see blackberry, not necessarily underripe, but not soft. I don't get prune or, well, I get a hint of fig and some very sharp leaf. Sharp leaf and sharp peppery notes. Fascinating. Maybe my nose is tired. I could get coffee as a secondary note. And a woody cedary as a tertiary. Interesting. All right, I would say medium acid, medium plus tannin. Thirteen and a half or 14. It just doesn't feel, my partner's way better at feeling the burn. I think my college years really just ruined my ability to detect alcohol. I'm half kidding, but I'm half not kidding. A lot of people give up spirits before they take some of their exams. So that is not a bad idea. It will help you increase your sensitivity to alcohol. So I like the way this one's integrated though. I know I didn't give as many descriptors, as I did for wine number one, but this one just feels it feels more integrated. Let's try wine number one again. No, it's that wine number one feels more like a New World Argentinian Malbec, and this almost feels French in some ways. None of them are French, but this has a little bit more of that old world style to it. It's more restrained, it's less bold. Okay, that's the tasting. I hope that was at least interesting. But we'll go on now to, if you like these wines, try. And then we'll do the reveal at the end. Okay, if you like Malbec. So we talked about what we were expecting to get out of this. So with a classic example, you might also want to try, if you like Old World Malbec, then look for Mourvedre. And if you like New World Malbec, look for Monastrell, because they're the same grape, but you will get those blackberry, chocolate, tobacco, peppery, very similar in the flavor profile. I didn't really take the time to remember which ones were like high acid, low acid, etc., but just strictly profile speaking. I also cannot mention Monastrell and Mourvedre without mentioning Syrah, largely because of the GSMs, but I wouldn't steer you towards Grenache or Garnacha. However, Syrah has those plum notes, the chocolate notes, the tobacco notes, and the peppery notes. You could do Merlot. Merlot tends to be very fruity. So if you like the New World Argentinian, I don't think America even makes Malbec, but if you like those big, bold, fruity Malbecs, I would definitely look at Merlot. It can have, excuse me, those plum notes, chocolate, vanilla, dried herbs. I sometimes get cherry and blueberry in Merlot, so that's like a nice little like spin on what you would get in a Malbec. Tempranillo can be good also. Instead of the prune, you're looking for the dried fig, which I actually got on these wines, and then the cedar and the tobacco notes. I think we've talked about Nero d'Avola before, but I'm not entirely certain. However, coming from Italy, you could get some of that black plum, the tobacco, and the peppery notes. And then I kind of like looked for some other ideas, like maybe these are the ones I thought of. And then I wanted to know like what maybe the internet thought. And a few sites recommended Bonarda. I have not had it, but the flavor profile given included plum or plum sauce. So think sweeter plums, and then chocolate and fig. So I'll have to track some down and let you know how it compares in this trained amateur's opinion, and if it's any good and worth your while. And then, of course, food, because who doesn't love food? So pairing ideas, like I said, Wine Simple talks about this being a great steak wine with that acid, the saltiness of the steak, with the tannins, the fat in the steak. It's just ideal for that. Other meats you could try would include, honestly, blackened fish would still be a good option. But with your red meats, we're looking at like chorizo would probably be pretty good, which is why there's like a taco in this one. You could do lamb meatballs, maybe do some ribs. I think there's like I think it's a Cuban dish called lechon, lechon. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. I'll put it in the video description. That seems like it would be great with this. And then of course cheeses, blue cheeses, Gouda, strong cheddars. You have a lot of like meat and cheese options with Malbec. It's just going to be phenomenal for those. But of course, I want to make sure that I am also talking to my veg people. So if you're vegan or vegetarian, think of like mushroom risotto, roasted blackened vegetables, maybe a lentil stew. You could do some veggie kebabs on the grill. Look at some braised tofu, especially if you've ever done salt and pepper like crunchy tofu. I feel like that would be a great choice for this. It's the same principles, the salt and the fat. So whatever you're making, just make sure there's some salt and some fat in it, and you're probably going to be great with this. And now that I'm saying the lentil stew, though, I really think if you did a lentil stew, especially maybe with some tofu cubes in it, that could be just scrumptious. Ooh, maybe tempeh cubes. Anyway, I guess that's the end. So thank you for coming to this presentation. Thank you for returning after all of my, do you think it's hiatus? Is the plural of hiatus hiatus? I don't actually know. I'll let you know in the video description. And now we will do the reveals. So wine one was the Ambition Selección de Barricas Malbec 2019, Mendoza, Argentina. Deep purple red color with violet hues. Maybe I really did need to do a heavier pour because that's not what I got. Red fruits such as plums, morello cherries, and blackberries with notes of vanilla from it aging in oak barrels. The mouth is sweet and velvety tannins with a long and persistent finish. And now here's where we find out, oh, it's only a 13.5? Well, I was incorrect about that. I want to say that was the mid-price one. Again, some notes that I should have taken that I thought about taking but didn't. Wine at number 2, the one that I simply could not describe, was the Atrevida Malbec 2019. Maybe this bottle isn't good. James Suckling gave it a 92, and I will taste it again tomorrow after it's had time to open up and let you know. Now, this does say a unique combination of old world elegance with a spicy Latin twist. So that could explain, yeah, I don't know. It's 14% alcohol by volume. I don't think it was particularly expensive either, which means this must be the Delator, which I think I got from Splash Wines, but I believe it retails for closer to 16, which now that I say that doesn't sound right because Splash Wines tend to be very inexpensive. Varietal Collection Malbec Mendoza 2020. So 2 2019s and a 2020. This says nothing descriptive about it, but it is 13.7. How specific? So yeah, so we're looking at 13.5 to 14. So these are hotter wines. I gotta say, I think the Delator is my favorite. I will put the prices based on probably the Vivino market surveys in the video description. I hope this was somewhat enlightening. I will look for a mid-range price range Malbec, and we can talk about that kind of a thing. I'm gonna stop sharing so we can do some more face-to-face chatting. So we will have one more video, I think, before the new year. I will be doing dry January. I have a shipment of popular non-alcoholic wines coming, so we can talk about those. I have a bunch of the non-alcoholic spirit stuff, so if you're following me on Instagram, I'll probably be reviewing a lot of that. The Curious Elixirs, the 3 spirits, G-Spot by my hero Gillian Anderson, some Can Euphorics, and I want to say one other one, but I can't remember now what I ordered. I got a little crazy. And then we'll talk about sort of where we want this channel to go. I want some feedback, hopefully, from all of you. But some of my thoughts about price ranges and how we should be drinking wine, they've changed a little bit. So I still want this to be very educational, but I also want it to be relevant to the people who are watching this and interested. And so I unfortunately need a little bit of dialogue and maybe some feedback from people just to know what you want to see. So I will be putting questions in future video descriptions. I'll probably be doing some Instagram polls. Let me know what you want to know and I will do my best. And with that, happy holidays, and I will see you in a week.